My name is Emma, and for years, I believed I was living the kind of life people only dream about. From the outside, my marriage seemed perfect, almost too perfect. Our home was always filled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee in the morning, the sound of soft laughter echoing in the evenings, and the warmth of shared dreams about the future. My husband, Alex, was my rock, my best friend, and my greatest confidant. We built a life that felt unshakable. Weekends were for cozy movie nights or long walks by the lake. We had plans, big plans of traveling the world together, starting a family, and growing old side by side. Friends and family often told us we were the couple they looked up to. I believed them. I believed him. But as I look back now, I see the little things I missed. The moments I brushed aside as unimportant. The unanswered phone calls. The way his smile would sometimes falter when he thought I wasn't looking. There was a secret lurking beneath the surface of our perfect life, a secret so life-changing that when it finally came to light, it left me questioning everything. This is the story of how I uncovered the truth Alex was hiding and the journey that followed. The early days of our marriage were everything I had ever hoped for. Alex and I were inseparable, like two pieces of a puzzle that fit perfectly together. We spent hours talking about our dreams, our fears, and even the smallest details of our day. He was the kind of man who remembered the little things like how I preferred my tea or the song that always made me smile. I trusted him completely, and he trusted me. For the first few years, it felt like nothing could ever go wrong. We celebrated anniversaries with candlelit dinners, exchanged heartfelt letters, and supported each other through every challenge life threw our way. I often told myself how lucky I was to have found someone like Alex. But looking back now, I see the cracks that I ignored. Small things I convinced myself didn't matter. There were the phone calls he would suddenly end when I entered the room, always brushing them off as work-related. Sometimes he would disappear into his office late at night, saying he had to catch up on emails, even though his job had never been demanding before. I noticed a change in his demeanor, too. He started coming home later than usual, his explanations vague. When I asked if something was wrong, he would kiss my forehead and assure me everything was fine. His words were kind, but his eyes told a different story, one I couldn't quite understand. Then there was the day I found a receipt for a dinner I hadn't been part of. It was tucked inside the pocket of his jacket, something he must have forgotten to take out. My heart sank as I stared at it, my mind racing with questions. Who was he with? Why didn't he tell me about it? I wanted to believe it was nothing a simple oversight. But deep down, a tiny voice whispered that something wasn't right. The doubts began to grow. I started noticing more how he avoided certain topics, how his smile sometimes felt forced, how the distance between us seemed to widen, no matter how hard I tried to bridge it. And then came the moment I couldn't ignore. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Alex had stepped out to run errands. I was cleaning up the kitchen when I accidentally knocked over his briefcase. As I bent down to gather the papers that spilled out, one envelope caught my eye. It wasn't addressed to him, it wasn't even addressed to me. My hands trembled as I picked it up, a sinking feeling settling in my chest. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was the beginning of a truth I wasn't ready to face. It was a quiet evening when the secret began to unravel, a night I will never forget. Alex was working late, or so he said. I had just finished dinner alone, the sound of the clock ticking in the background, only amplifying the emptiness of the house. As I cleared the table, my phone buzzed. It was a message, but not for me. It was meant for Alex. The sender's name was unfamiliar, and the message was cryptic yet chilling. I need an answer, Alex. We can't keep hiding this forever. My breath caught in my throat. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen, reading the words over and over again. Hiding what? Who was this person? A flood of emotions hit me all at once: confusion, fear, anger. My mind raced, conjuring scenarios I didn't want to believe could be true. I tried to push the message out of my head, telling myself it was a misunderstanding. But that voice inside me, the one I had been ignoring for months, grew louder. I knew I couldn't let this go. Determined to find answers, I went to Alex's office. His laptop was there, still open but in sleep mode. My heart pounded as I hesitated, my hand hovering over the keyboard. I had never invaded his privacy before it felt wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. As the screen lit up, I saw an email thread that made my stomach drop. It was from the same person who had sent the message. With shaky fingers, I opened it. The words on the screen blurred as tears filled my eyes. The email was about a woman and a child I didn't know existed. Alex had been financially supporting them for years. The emails revealed that the woman was someone from his past, and the child was his son. My head spun as I pieced it together. He had a life before me that he had kept hidden, a child he never told me about, and a connection to someone he had sworn was long gone. I felt like the ground beneath me had crumbled. How could he hide something so significant? The betrayal wasn't just in the secret itself, it was in the years of lies. The moments he looked me in the eye and pretended everything was fine. When Alex came home that night, I confronted him, holding up my phone with the message still on the screen. He froze, the color draining from his face. I demanded answers, my voice shaking with hurt and anger. At first, he tried to deny it, but the weight of the evidence was undeniable. He finally confessed. Yes, he had a child from a relationship before we met. He claimed he didn't tell me because he was afraid of how I would react, afraid it would change the way I saw him. His excuses only deepened my pain. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice he made every single day to keep me in the dark. In that moment, my world shattered. The man I thought I knew, the man I had trusted with my heart, was a stranger. And now, I had to decide what to do with the truth. My body felt numb as I sat there, staring at Alex. His words swirled around me, but I could barely hear them. The weight of the revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. My mind struggled to make sense of what had just been uncovered. A child? A secret family? All these years, he had kept this from me. All those nights I had thought were filled with shared trust. Were they nothing more than lies? I wanted to scream, to lash out, but no words came. Instead, tears spilled down my face, as much from disbelief as from the crushing weight of betrayal. How could he have kept this from me for so long? How could I have been so blind? Alex was standing across from me now, his face a mix of guilt and helplessness. He tried to reach for my hand, but I recoiled, as if his touch might burn me. He looked at me, his eyes filled with regret. "Emma, I didn't mean for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you," he said, his voice shaky. But his words felt hollow. I wasn't sure if they were meant to comfort me or just to make himself feel better. "You did mean it," I whispered, the truth sinking in. "You chose to keep this secret, You chose to lie to me every day. How could you do that, Alex? How could you look me in the eye and pretend everything was fine? He took a deep breath, his shoulders slumping. I was scared, Emma. I thought if I told you the truth, you'd leave me. I didn't want to lose you. I thought I could keep it buried, keep it all in the past. But you didn't. I shouted, finally finding my voice. You didn't keep it in the past, Alex. You've been living a lie, and I've been a part of it. You had a whole life, a family, a child I didn't even know existed, and you didn't think I had a right to know? My chest was tight, my breath shallow. How do I even begin to trust you again? His silence spoke volumes. There were no grand apologies, no explanations that could undo what he had done. I could see it in his eyes, the regret, the guilt, but no real remorse. He was sorry, sure, but sorry that he'd been caught. Sorry that the truth had come out, not sorry for the hurt he'd caused. I stood up, unable to sit still any longer. The room felt suffocating. I don't know what to do now, I muttered, more to myself than to him. My heart ached as I looked at the man who had once been my world. The love I had for him still lingered, but it was tainted now. The betrayal hung in the air like a thick fog I couldn't escape from. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence was deafening, the weight of everything unsaid filling the space between us. Finally, I looked at him, my voice barely above a whisper. How do I forgive you for this, Alex? How do I look at you the same way again? He didn't have an answer. I didn't expect him to. My mind was in turmoil. I loved him. I truly did. But could love really survive something like this? Could trust be rebuilt after it had been shattered so completely? I had spent years building a life with him, a life that felt real, solid, and unshakable. And now, it all felt like a lie. The internal struggle was maddening. I wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that this was just a mistake, a wrong choice made out of fear. But the truth was, the pain I felt was too raw, too deep. The idea of living in a world where everything I had trusted was now questionable. It was overwhelming. Could I forgive him? Could I accept his apology, his reasoning, his promises that it would never happen again? Or was this the end? Was this the point where I had to walk away from everything I thought I knew? I didn't have the answers right then. But I knew one thing. I couldn't stay in this limbo forever. I needed time to think, to process, and to decide what was best for me. This wasn't just about Alex, it was about me too. It was about my own healing, my own peace, and my own future. So I told him I needed space. I couldn't make any decisions in that moment, not with my heart in so much pain, not with so many questions still unanswered. And as I walked away, I realized something important. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't let the weight of his secret define my life. Not anymore. Days turned into weeks, and the pain of betrayal slowly started to ease, but it was a long and difficult journey. At first, all I could do was cry. I would lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, asking myself over and over how I had missed the signs. But as time passed, I realized I couldn't keep living in the past, clinging to the hurt. I had to move forward. I started talking to my family and friends, something I had been too afraid to do before. I didn't want anyone to know about Alex's secret. I thought it would be too embarrassing, too shameful. But when I finally opened up, I realized that they weren't judging me. They were just there for me, ready to listen and support me, no matter what. One evening, my best friend Maria came over. She could see the sadness in my eyes, but she was also determined to help me see the truth about myself, that I was stronger than I thought. "You are so much more than what happened with him, Emma," she told me gently. "You are not defined by his mistakes." Her words stayed with me long after she left. I began to realize how much I had been neglecting my own well-being for the sake of a relationship that no longer felt right. I had given everything to Alex, trusted him with my heart, and yet, here I was, broken and lost. But slowly, I started to rebuild myself. I picked up old hobbies I had forgotten about. I went for long walks, just to clear my mind. I started reading again, losing myself in books that transported me to new worlds. And, most importantly, I spent more time alone, getting to know myself again. Through all the moments of quiet reflection, I began to understand what I truly wanted in life. I realized I didn't need to rely on anyone else for my happiness. I had to be whole on my own before I could truly share my life with someone else. I began to accept that healing wasn't a straight line. There were good days and bad days. Some mornings, I would wake up and feel strong, as if I could take on the world. Other times, the pain would return, and I would feel as though I was right back where I started. But with every step, I was learning, growing, and becoming more confident in my own skin. After weeks of soul-searching, I finally made my decision. I knew I couldn't stay in a relationship that no longer felt genuine. Alex had kept a life-altering secret from me. And while I had once believed in the love we shared, I had to face the truth. We were no longer the same people we were when we first met. The trust had been broken, and no amount of apologies or promises could fix that. So, I chose to move on. It was not an easy decision. Part of me still wanted to believe in the man I married, but I realized that I deserved more. I deserved honesty, respect, and love that was built on a solid foundation. Letting go of him was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But as I walked away from the past, I was also walking towards something better myself. I had rediscovered my strength, my worth, and my ability to stand on my own 2 feet. I wanted to tell the world, especially other women who had been hurt or betrayed, you are enough. You are strong, and you can heal from anything, no matter how deep the pain feels right now. From this experience, I learned that life isn't always fair, and sometimes we don't get the happy ending we thought we'd have. But we always have the power to choose our next step. I had been broken, but I wasn't destroyed. I was rebuilding, slowly but surely, and that was something worth celebrating. The road to healing may seem long, and the journey may feel lonely at times. But remember this, you are not alone, and you are stronger than you think. Heartbreak may shake us, but it also teaches us about our own resilience. With time, you will heal, you will grow, and you will emerge even stronger than before.